If you was a fan of rally racing games back in the mid-90s, chances are you've heard of Tommi Mäkinen Rally. And if you did pick it up, there's a good chance you wasn't exactly blown away by it. In fact, most people who bought the game ended up being disappointed in it, and to be fair to them, they had good reason to be. With a legendary name like Tommi Mäkinen on the cover, and being released in the same year as this rally masterpiece, expectations were through the roof, but sadly, the game just couldn't live up to the hype. It's tough for me to say this because as a kid, I absolutely bloody loved this game. But now, after going back to play it for this video, I can totally see where all the hate came from. So, the big question is now, was it really that bad? You see, I think the biggest problem with Tommi Mäkinen Rally is that the developers never really knew which direction they wanted to take it in. Was it made for people who like arcade-style racing games? Or was it supposed to appeal to hardcore rally fans? This is a question that a lot of people asked back then, and the answers very much contradicted themselves. Having Tommy's name in the title does suggest it was made for hardcore rally fans. Also, you can tune your car in fair detail before a race, then repair it afterwards in exchange for a time penalty. The game features all of the main cars that any rally racing fan would expect, including the Scooby, obviously Tommy's Evo, and a few other cars in between. So, you love rally racing and this all sounds great. What's the problem? Well, this is where things get a bit muffled because, judging by the racing gameplay, Tommi Mäkinen Rally was made for casual gamers, not actual rally fans. Rather than going from point A to point B, you race around a circuit for X amount of laps. If you're competing in championship or arcade mode, you have to race against 3 other opponents at the same time, rather than racing on your own against the clock. The driving mechanics feel very arcadey, although to be fair, as far as arcadey driving mechanics go, they're not the worst to play with, and all of the cars in the game do feel different from one another. Despite the identity crisis, I think most things in this game are probably forgivable. However, there's just one thing, and I mean one thing, that I cannot get my head round. How does a game focused on Tommi Mäkinen end up with the Mitsubishi Evo, his own car, having some of the worst stats in the game? This doesn't include the Golf or the Skoda or any of the smaller cars, by the way. They all race in a completely different class. From the main class of cars, the Proton and the Renault are the only cars that are worse than the Evo. That means the Scooby, the Toyota and the Ford Escort are all better cars to race with in this game. The Escort, in fact, is the best car in this game, and that's sort of okay, I guess. I mean, everyone likes a Ford Escort. But come on, man, this game came out when Scooby fans and Evo fans were right at the peak of their beef. If Colin McRae's Impreza made Subaru fans feel warm and tingly in his game, then Tommi Mäkinen's game really should have done the same for Evo fans. Now, I think I know what went wrong for the Evo in this game, but to explain it to you guys, we need to check out a game that came out the year before. Tommi Mäkinen Rally isn't exactly an original game, it's actually a port of another rally game that first launched on the PC. If you're watching this and thinking, yeah, this game does look familiar, and you're not from the UK or France, well, that's probably because it was released as International Rally Championship in your country. It was originally launched on the PC in 1997 by Magnetic Fields, then later ported to the PlayStation by Europress in 1998, but only in the UK and France for whatever reason. Tommi Mäkinen himself had no connection whatsoever to International Rally Championship, and in that game, the Evo was just another car. My guess is that when the developers ported the game to the PlayStation, they chose to keep the car stats unchanged, assuming they were already balanced for arcade-style racing. It might have also been a way so they could save time and focus on other aspects of the game, like, say, the 130 tracks that the game proudly claims to offer. Speaking of tracks, Tommi Mäkinen Rally offered a mode that Colin McRae Rally didn't, and to be fair, it was pretty fun. The 3D track editor is easily one of the best features in the game because it brings a whole new level of fun and creativity. It gives you the tools to design your own courses, letting you experiment with layouts, elevation changes, and even scenery. Want a tight technical course? Go for it. Prefer a high-speed circuit with massive straights? The choice is yours, and it's genuinely fun to see your ideas come to life. The editor was surprisingly flexible for its time, and it gave players the tools to craft something unique and personal. That being said, it's not without its flaws. The interface can feel clunky at times, and you only get a limited number of track pieces to use, meaning the designs eventually looked very samey after a while. Plus, designing a truly great track requires a fair bit of patience and trial and error, which may not be everyone's cup of tea. Still, for a game that came out in the late 90s, this feature felt well ahead of its time. It added a playful, hands-on experience that was just plain fun to mess around with. Now, the graphics in Tommi Mäkinen Rally, well, I think they're a bit of a mixed bag. For a late 90s PlayStation game, they do the job, but they don't exactly push the hardware. The cars are decently modelled with just enough detail to make them recognisable, and the environments do offer some variety with forests, snowy landscapes and desert tracks. However, the textures are pretty basic and the draw distance is quite limited. On the plus side though, the game does run pretty smoothly, and its bright, colourful visuals do add to its charm. It's not groundbreaking by any means, but it does have a certain appeal that makes the game's technical shortcomings somewhat forgivable. In the end, Tommi Mäkinen Rally is a game with a lot of potential that never quite finds its footing. It's clear the developers had some interesting ideas, like the ability to tune and repair your car, a genuinely fun 3D track editor, and a large variety of vehicles and tracks. These elements could have made it a standout rally title, but the game's identity crisis, in my humble opinion, held it back. Was it trying to appeal to hardcore rally fans or casual arcade players? Well, the answer seems to be both. The arcade-style gameplay, with lap-based circuit racing and head-to-head opponents, feels out of place with the more technical tuning options and the association with Tommi Mäkinen's legendary name. This split focus ultimately leaves the game feeling really unfocused, which is a real shame considering the potential of its foundation. Then there's the elephant in the room, the Mitsubishi Evo. As the car most closely tied to Mäkinen's success, it's truly baffling how it ends up being one of the weakest cars in the game. Whether it's due to its origins as a port of International Rally Championship, or just a lack of attention to detail, it feels like a missed opportunity to give Evo fans the experience they truly deserved. That being said, it's not all bad. The track editor, while clunky and limited, is a standout feature that adds creativity and replayability. The game's colourful, arcade-style graphics have a charm to them, and the overall gameplay, while not groundbreaking, is still fun in a light-hearted pick-up-and-play kind of way. So, all in all, just a very bang-average rally game, really. Maybe if it had launched on the PlayStation as International Championship Rally and left Tommi Mäkinen's name completely out of the title, it would have been compared to V-Rally instead, which for me feels like a more fitting comparison. Now, if you want to see what a true rally masterpiece looked like on the PS1, this video right here about Colin McRae Rally 2 is exactly what you need to click on next.